want y'all. I'm gonna go ahead. I want y'all to listen to this. What I'm about to play, because the one thing that's about more harder than the NBA Finals and history on the brink, which is today, is probably this is like bigger than the Super Bowl. This is bigger than the NBA Finals. In case y'all wondering, because yesterday, former FBI Director James M. Comey Jr. had took the stand at the Senate Hearing Intelligence Committee to testify on 45 on Savage 45 here. But I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna play this right here for you, straight from ABC News. I'm gonna leave the link in the description for y'all, and I'm gonna come back with what little left of my commentary.
Declaring the president is no liar after former FBI Director James Comey took center stage in a hearing that captivated the nation and set the scene for the investigation that will likely plague the administration for months, if not years, to come. At the heart of the inquiry, profound questions. How extensive was the Russian interference in our election? And did the president attempt to obstruct an investigation into their involvement? Here's ABC's David Wright.
Today in Washington, a political spectacle.
Raise your right hand.
The rare Senate committee hearing to rise in political circles to must-see TV.
Nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please be seated.
Former FBI Director James Comey,
Director Comey, you're now under oath.
for the first time since he was fired, giving his views on the investigation he led into Russian meddling in the November election.
But we're talking about a foreign government that, using technical intrusion and lots of other methods, tried to shape the way we think, we vote, we act. That is a big deal.
The question looming today, how did that investigation put him so much at odds with the Trump administration that the president ended up firing him?
The administration then chose to defame me and, more importantly, the FBI by saying that the organization was in disarray, that it was poorly led, that the workforce had lost confidence in its leader. Those were lies, plain and simple.
Comey made it clear that, as he sees it, the president's goal was to derail the Russia investigation, first by pressuring him.
My common sense, again, I could be wrong, but my common sense told me what's going on here is he's looking to get something in exchange for granting my request to stay in the job.
And ultimately, by firing him.
Why do you believe you were fired?
Because I don't know for sure. I believe I take the president at his word that I was fired because of the Russia investigation. Something about the way I was conducting it, the president felt created pressure on him they wanted to relieve.
This was the Super Bowl of congressional hearings. I spoke to some people who were lining up outside this committee room at 4 a.m. this morning. The line so long it snaked through two separate Senate buildings.
Perhaps the biggest question that they were dealing with today, was there obstruction of justice? Dan Abrams, what do you think?
It's still unclear. James Comey did make one thing clear, which is that he was directed, in his view, to end a portion of the investigation with regard to Michael Flynn.
Flynn is the NSA director Trump ultimately fired after it was exposed that he lied about his conversations with the Russian ambassador. Comey says the president privately asked him to go easy on Flynn.
I took it as a direction. I mean, this is the president of the United States with me alone saying, I hope this. I took it as, this is what he wants me to do. Now, I didn't obey that, but that's the way I took it.
The president wanted to speak to him alone, which in and of itself is an extraordinary thing. That doesn't happen very often. And the reason, from listening to Jim Comey's testimony, the reason was because the president understood that what he was going to ask was something that he wanted to keep secret. And people keep things secret when they have guilty knowledge about it.
Comey made it clear today that's not how the FBI normally works.
The statue of justice has a blindfold on because you're not supposed to be peeking out to see whether your patron is pleased or not with what you're doing. It should be about the facts and the law.
Comey detailed his growing unease with the president, starting with their first one-on-one meeting at Trump Tower during the transition. Afterwards, Comey wrote down his account of the meeting on his laptop.
I was honestly concerned that he might lie about the nature of our meeting, and so I thought it really important to document.
Comey says his interactions with the president got even more awkward from there.
He's become more famous than me.
You've seen the picture of me walking across the Blue Room, and what the president whispered in my ear was, "I really look forward to working with you."
And yet, Comey testified, almost a week later, the president invited him over for dinner at the White House. In an interview with NBC News, the president insisted Comey invited himself.
A dinner was arranged. I think he asked for the dinner.
Did you in any way initiate that dinner?
No. He called me at my desk at lunchtime and asked me, was I free for dinner that night?
It was at that dinner that Comey claims Trump asked for a pledge of loyalty. Comey says he deferred, promising the president honesty instead.
And it got very awkward, and I then said, "You'll always have honesty from me." He said, "Honest loyalty," and then I acceded to that as a way to end this awkwardness.
The president later suggested Comey had better hope there are no tapes of their conversations.
I've seen the tweet about tapes. Lordy, I hope there are tapes.
Today, Comey insisted he's not worried any tapes would contradict him.
The president surely knows whether he taped me, and if he did, my feelings aren't hurt. Release all the tapes. I'm good with it.
You may disagree with certain things that he did, but the notion that he's making these stories up, I think that's going to be a tough sell.
Today, President Trump's ears must have been burning.
The president's legal team and his senior advisors were huddled in a private dining room, a small dining room right near the Oval Office, watching the Comey hearing unfold. The president was in there for part of the hearing, watching as well.
Comey was still testifying when Trump spoke at a religious conference in Washington.
The entrenched interest and failed bitter voices in Washington will do everything in their power to try and stop us from this righteous cause, to try to stop all of you.
The president did not concede an inch.
We know that the truth will prevail.
But the president hasn't exactly made his case clear. First, claiming he got rid of Comey under the recommendation of the top brass at the Justice Department. Later, admitting to Lester Holt there were other considerations too.
Regardless of recommendation, I was going to fire Comey, knowing there was no good time to do it. And in fact, when I decided to just do it, I said to myself, I said, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story.
Mr. Comey, you're encouraged.
Pressed on the issue today, Comey said he took the president at his word, but declined to say whether what the president did was illegal.
Do you believe this will rise to the obstruction of justice?
I don't know. That's Bob Mueller's job to sort that out.
Bob Mueller is Comey's predecessor as FBI director. The two men have known each other for years. Mueller is now serving as special counsel to complete the Russia investigation. Today, Comey admitted that after his firing, he leaked the content of his own memos in an effort to ensure the Justice Department would appoint a special counsel.
I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mark Kasowitz, President Trump's personal lawyer.
Today, the president's own lawyer took Comey to task for leaking.
We will leave it to the appropriate authorities to determine whether these leaks should be investigated along with all the others that are being investigated.
And even suggested that maybe Comey could be prosecuted for that. So a very aggressive response and pushback from the White House to Jim Comey's testimony.
Overall, Kasowitz seized on a few key moments of Comey's testimony that he says vindicate his client.
Mr. Comey has now finally confirmed publicly what he repeatedly told President Trump privately. That is, that the president was not under investigation as part of any probe into Russian interference.
Comey did admit he reassured the president at least 3 separate times that he personally was not a target of the investigation. The president asked him to say so publicly.
His specific ask was that you would tell the American people what you had already told him, what you had already told the leaders of Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, that he was not personally under investigation.
Yes, sir.
In fact, he was asking you to do what you have done here today.
Correct. Yes, sir.
But Comey said he thought it best not to do so, because if circumstances changed, there'd be a duty to correct the record.
Do you believe Donald Trump colluded with Russia?
It's a question I don't think I should answer in an open setting. As I said, when I left, we did not have an investigation focused on President Trump. But that's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
For his part, House Speaker Paul Ryan today suggested Trump's clashes with Comey likely resulted from naivete, not from any nefarious reasons.
The president's new at this. He's new to government, and so he probably wasn't steeped in the long-running protocols that establish the relationships between DOJ, FBI, and White Houses.
One party involved must be delighted at how this is all shaking out.
I think that the Russians are exactly thinking this is mission accomplished beyond their sort of wildest expectations. Not only did they influence the election in the way that they intended, but they also have sort of sown all of this disorder and chaos.
The president may well have discovered that governing in Washington isn't as straightforward as hosting The Apprentice. Sidelining James Comey wasn't so simple as just telling him, "You're fired." I'm David Wright for Nightline in New York.
Okay. From what that testimony was, that was just part of it. I'm going to leave a link in the description for the whole thing. But one thing does remain constant and remains true. 45, y'all done fucked up. You're dealing with somebody who's got the memory of a goddamn elephant. That's a metaphor, it's not actual fact. Comey documented everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. You know, but right now, this is like the biggest thing that's going on right now. And on top of that, during the time when that was going on, look who decided to rear their freaking ugly head up in D.C. The asshole of Florida. And also, we call him Skeletor here. You know, that's Rick Scott. You know, we'll be glad when his ass is gone. You know, he's been fucking up this state. He's been fucking up my home state, my home territory for the past several years. And then you got the idiot old senile ass crackers that voted this fucker in there. But it really should have been the ones getting his ass out. But then again, what you expect? I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna try to do my best to keep y'all posted on what's going on with the Comey hearings. But I'm gonna tell you like this: James Comey, man, you know his life is gonna be compromised from here on in for the rest of his life after taking that testimony, because the deaths with the Russians and all that, dude. You're dealing with somebody like Vladimir Putin, who's an ex-KGB agent. He could probably have somebody had this man killed. And that's what may end up happening. But I'm going to leave the link in the description for y'all when it comes to this here. And let me know what y'all think about the whole thing in the commentary. I know probably none of y'all do because y'all going to be busy tuning into the finals, but I could care less about that. This is bigger than the finals or the Super Bowl or the World Series.